Vroom! Vroom! Hey guys, welcome back to Blank System Bikes. Today, we're rebuilding carburetors. Check it out. So, we are back working on the Sportster chopper. Today, we need to get the carburetor rebuilt. The guy who dropped it off to me says that it idles poorly, and then anytime you give it any throttle, it cuts out, sputters, and dies. So that's telling me we likely have a problem with the jets. It's been sitting for a while, it sat overseas, probably had ethanol fuel in it, so it's probably junked up. So, we got a rebuild kit. We're gonna take the carburetor off, clean it, rebuild it, throw it back on, see how she runs. Let's do it. So, this 1978 Sportster has one of the old school S&S Super carbs, and it is held on by the intake manifold. And then there's obviously the 3 bolts that hold the plate for the filter on that need to come off also. So let's get it off and we'll get it rebuilt. I'm not going to show this process just because, I mean, it's really easy. When you find bolts, you take them off, it comes off. Easy enough. So got the carb off. This is our 1978 S&S Super, a B model. And it's longer than a lot of the ones you've normally seen. Like the one on the shovel head that we worked on was much shorter body. This is just an older carb. It's a choke. Very stuck enrichment screw. The throttle, this is an interesting throttle. Instead of having a ferrule on the end of the cable, it just feeds right in here and you crimp it down with this screw. But let's go ahead and start taking it apart. First thing we're going to take off is the mount for the filter. That's easy enough, just these 3 bolts mount right to the flange. So the filter mount is off. As you can see, it's got this paper gasket on it. I am dare to say that this carburetor hasn't been pulled off this bike since the bike was made back in 78, 73. This is a 73. I said 78 earlier. This is a 1973 Sportster. The shovel head was a 78. But next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the bowl off. If you haven't already, this bolt here is to drain the bowl. And obviously that's the fuel inlet from the tank. Now, this carburetor is all flathead screws, as you can see. Be really careful because they strip real easy. And then you got a whole nother nightmare on your hands. Just take your time. Use patience and get them off. Got the screws off, let's take the bowl off. And there you see. The gasket, the bowl itself with the float. And let's look under the gasket. It's not too bad looking, honestly. I mean, there's a little bit of gunk in here, but I mean, it's not terrible. We'll still pull the main jet off and double check it. And, we'll spray some carb cleaner through it, get it all cleaned up. So the float, to get it out, there's a little flathead screw right there on the side. Just go ahead and take that off, and then you'll be able to get the pin for the float out. That way we can replace the fuel shutoff. Get that out the way. And then the float comes out, and there's our fuel valve seat. I'm going to call it like 20 different things, and none of it will be right, but y'all always correct me, so it's all good. We're also going to get some bins to keep stuff organized. So now that the bowl is all taken out and disassembled, we're going to start pulling the jets out. You've got the main jet and the slow jet, and then this is the choke. I don't necessarily want to call it a jet, but it's the choke pickup tube, I guess. I don't know. Y'all correct me. I'm not an expert on S&S carbs. I can take them apart and rebuild them, but let's go ahead and get the jets out. Got the jets out. Goodness, had a brain fart. Got the jets out. They're a little dirty in there, so that's all right. We'll clean it out. Next thing we want to do is we want to get the enrichment screw out. So if the bike ran decently before it sat, then the enrichment screw shouldn't need too much adjustment. So we're going to bottom it out, count how many turns that takes, and then take it all the way out. That way when we put it back in, we can bottom it out again and then back it up that same amount of turns. The enrichment screw is out. Next, we're going to go ahead and take the choke. I'm going to leave this in and just take the nut off there. And there's our choke. So the cool thing about these old school carbs is there's not a whole lot of mechanical moving parts to it, I guess I should say. A lot of it's just relying on physics, pulling a vacuum, the Venturi effect, pulling fuel into the vacuum. I mean, the choke alone is just a plunger. You see, it's just a plunger that when you pull it out, it unseats it, and then you snap it back in and it seats it up again. And essentially that's the same thing as our enrichment screw here. It's just got that little needle point and it closes off a hole. And the jets are just, Venturi tubes. So we've gotten all the moving parts out of the carburetor. We're not going to take the throttle out. I just don't really see the need. It moves freely, so there's really no need to take that out. We'll just spray it all down, get it all clean. This would be a really good candidate for an ultrasonic cleaner. I don't have one, so we're going to go old school with some cleaner and a brush. Let's get done. So we got it fairly clean. We cleaned out all the orifices, all the gasket surfaces. We really got in the barrel good too. Clean out all that old built-up carbon, because that can definitely affect your airflow, cause turbulent air, and not get as good of a burn. So now we're going to start kind of, really getting into these surfaces, cleaning the gasket surfaces a little more, and then we'll start reassembling it. This is a really easy carburetor rebuild. It's not one of the S&S that have the accelerator pump and all that. It's just got 2 jets and a choke, and then the enrichment screw. Nothing seemed to be clogged, so it should go back together pretty good. We got our rebuild kit here from J&P Cycles. I am not paid by them, although, just like TC Bros, a sponsorship would be cool. If y'all want to hit me up. Let's get it open. So our kit comes with a new butterfly valve, so we're just going to go ahead and replace it. The shaft isn't the right shaft, because I think I got a later model, or a newer model rebuild kit, so a lot of the parts are the same, but some of them aren't. But the shaft isn't. The butterfly valve itself is. So we're just going to take this butterfly off and put it on the old carb. And the easiest way to do that is just to get in here with your flathead screwdriver, get those 2 screws out, and then you just kind of turn it and push it out. Yeah, it's a little stuck, but we'll get it out. So next I want to rebuild the parts in the bowl. So we're going to do the float and the fuel valve itself, or the inlet. This new one has an O-ring on it. Just make sure it fits. And of course it does. It does not have a new, at least I don't see it, a new drain plug. But that's okay. We'll throw a new O-ring on there, because it does have a new O-ring, and we'll throw that drain plug on there. So when reinstalling your float, you're going to take your float, you're going to take your fuel valve, and you just kind of dangle it right there from the float, just like that, and then it sets right into the bowl. And then once that's sitting in there, you can go ahead and get your long pin, this meal, and slide that back in, and just kind of line it up as you go. So I know I'm doing this off camera. I got to be able to see. But you're going to have to start screwing it in as you line it up. So it does take 2 hands. So hold on one second. So there we have the bowl reassembled. Let's go ahead and move on to the body of the carb. So as it turns out, I got the wrong carb kit. This is for Super E models, and I have a Super B. Like I said, a lot of the parts are interchangeable. The only thing we're missing is new jets. But you know what? I'll just soak the ones we have in some acetone, clean them out, and we'll reuse them, because they are in good shape. I mean, even the enrichment screw, it's not damaged or anything like that. So we'll reuse them. We'll just clean them real good. Got some part soup. As you can see in there, I got those. They're just going to chill in some acetone for a little bit. That'll help dissolve a lot of the grime that's just built up on them. And then we'll take them out and give them a good scrub. So let's let them soak. So whenever you rebuild your carburetors, it's always good to change your fuel filter. And what was pretty cool is this had a 2-part fuel filter. So it unscrews, and then there's this little, probably brass micro filter in there. So we'll take that out, clean that real good. And I've never seen a reusable fuel filter, so that's pretty cool. So when you put the choke lever back in, I like to take a little bit of lithium grease and put it just right there on that shaft. That way when it, is sliding in and out, it moves freely and doesn't end up binding up or getting dirt and gunk in it. Oh, main jet goes back in the middle. Slow jet's off on the side. They're a little bit hard to get in after they come out with the acetone just because both surfaces are so dry. So, just very gently and carefully work them back in. We got the jets in and tightened. We put our new gasket back on the float, or excuse me, the bowl, not the float, the float bowl. So now the only thing left to do is put our choke and our enrichment screw back in. So let's go ahead and do that. We lubed up our choke, like I said, lubed up that shaft. So it's just going to sit right back in here. Nice and easy. That is a 1/2 inch. Still getting used to using a standard sizing now that I'm not working on the Asian bikes anymore. And tighten that down. Now remember, a lot of this is aluminum. This is cast aluminum, so be careful tightening stuff down. Don't really wrench on it or you're going to lose it. And then you're looking at either retapping the threads or a whole new carb. Neither of those are fun. Next is the enrichment screw. Don't forget the spring that goes on it. Trying to get to focus, but with the enrichment screw, this little point here is very important. Make sure that it is nice and clean. We don't want any carbon buildup because that will make it not work effectively. But let's go ahead and get that in. You can use like some 2000 grit sandpaper, just something really fine because you don't want to actually take any material off of it. You just want to clean it. Most of the time I've found that just some acetone and then wiping with like a rag works pretty well in getting the stuff clean. So putting the enrichment screw back in, like I said when we took it out, we bottomed it out and then saw how many turns that got us. So we're going to do the same thing putting it back in. And I know that when I bottomed it out, I had 1 full turn back to where it was set. So there's bottomed out. We'll go a 1/2 turn and then 1 full turn. And that's where it was. So that gives you a good reference point for tuning because that's where it was before. So it should be in relatively the same spot when you put it back, but you can go just a little bit one way or a little bit the other to actually tune the bike and get it running smooth again. But that's it. Let's get it back on the bike and see if she runs. Well, friends, that's all I got for you today. Not a lot of information in that video just because it's a simple kind of take it apart, put it back together type video. But you can see what cleaning and, just getting in there and getting a lot of the old just age out of a carburetor does for it. It's still running a little clunky, but, I think I can fix that just with some tuning, adjusting some of the settings on the enrichment screw and stuff like that. But if you haven't already, like I always say, please like and subscribe. Helps the channel out a lot. Y'all really seem to like the shovelhead video, which is cool. That was a really fun project to work on, and I think I'm going to start doing a lot more Harleys. Preferably old Harleys, but I do still have the wrecked 2014 Sportster over there that we're going to do kind of a cool build on. But this one's going to get a new oil pump next, and then we're going to build a jockey shifter, and then some new exhaust, and then it's out the door. And on to the next one. But thanks for watching, guys. As always, stay riding.